Hello everyone, my name is Ahmad Bitar. I am an Ethereum core developer with Nethermind. And today we're going to talk about protocol development and mainstream adoption. And we are going to focus on execution layer and Ethereum development in particular. So let's start with the agenda. So we'll start with a small intro about Nethermind. I'll introduce you to the names of the core team. And then we can talk about what has been done already to increase the adoption of Ethereum and what's happening right now. Possibly we'll give you some alpha about withdrawals and what are our future plans for execution layer development and other aspects that could affect mainstream adoption in the industry in general. So Nethermind is a blockchain company specializing in providing research and engineering to support the Ethereum ecosystem. And we have really great partners from the Ethereum Foundation, Gnosis Chain, Starknet, etc., Lido. All the big names are partnering with us. So to introduce you to the core team, all of these names that you're seeing in front of you are the core team members. We have grown very much in the past year especially. And everyone in this list basically have had an effect on my life in the past couple of months because they all been very helpful and very nice. And they are technically just super giga brain people, honestly. All right, so what has been done already? So in the past period, Nethermind, we had an implementation for ERC 4337, which is basically account abstraction. The nice thing about Nethermind is the execution client is that you can basically have plugins built on top of it. So we built this ERC 4337 implementation as a plugin on top of Nethermind. Unfortunately, this implementation right now is a little bit out of date because it requires libp2p, but things are about to change in the future, hopefully, for it. We also work, what happened also was the merge. It happened around this time a year ago or something. It started a couple of years ago, but the most work that was done around this time a year ago. And the merge affected how people would approach crypto in a way because it did not only allow people who have mining equipment to participate in the network and to actually allow people who own Ethereum, who are invested in the platform, to participate in validating the network and making profit from it. It also allowed people who want to validate the network to not put capital into purchasing hardware that will depreciate in value, but instead put capital into buying the asset, which is Ethereum, to validate the network, which actually appreciates in value. The things that has been done in the past also period, specifically in Nethermind, is that we worked on improving the stability and user experience in general for people who are using the client. And we improved our documentation so people can easily run the client, especially after the merge. People used to just run one execution client for Ethereum and that's it. But now, if you want to run a client for Ethereum, you need to run it in combination with a consensus layer client. So we had to improve our documentation to make it easy for people. One other team in the company also created something called Sedge, which basically makes it just one line of command line and you're up and running to have an execution client and CL client running on your Docker containers, which is very interesting. One of our ex-Netherminder, his name is Christoph. he's the one who was working on ERC 4337, actually. He created a company called Pimlico with the help of Nethermind, and they just recently received an Ethereum Foundation grant for implementing and working on account abstraction. So shout out to him and to his work. A lot of people asking when we're going to enable withdrawals for Ethereum. So recently, we had a successful hard fork for Gurley a couple of days ago, possibly like 2 days ago. Yeah, and yesterday, early morning actually, and it was successful and finalized. Hopefully today at around 6, we will have the all core developer meeting and we will finalize the date. But in a previous meeting, we had agreed that if Gurley went well, hopefully in a month or so, we will have a date. We will set the date in a month or so for Shanghai to merge, and we will have withdrawals start then. We also are currently working on EIP 4844 implementation, which is proto-dank sharding, which will basically lower the cost of transactions on layer 2 solutions, like basically 10 times, which also helps in increasing the mainstream adoption of the ecosystem in general, because it passed a time in the bull market that gas prices were in Ethereum too high that normal people would not be able to transact on the chain, and only really rich people or bots even sometimes are the ones who are including their transactions on the blocks. So this actually speeds up the implementation of rollups and allows them to reduce the costs for the user. In Nethermind specifically though, we are also currently working on FlatDB layout for state management. So basically, currently the state storage in Nethermind, the way it works is that it's a Merkle Patricia tree. And if you want to access a certain value of a certain account, for example, how much ether does a certain account has, then you will have to traverse the whole tree from the root state node all the way down to the node that goes into the account. And that's that's basically heavy. And that does not also allow us, that actually also prevents us from serving snap state. Because currently, the way Nethermind syncs with the chain is that after it downloads the headers and some of the blocks that are needed to process the chain, it starts downloading the state of the chain, the state of the accounts, the state of the smart contracts and storages there. So for it to be able to download the state, there was a protocol called SnapSync, which basically allows you to query other peers in the network to get from one account, from a certain range of accounts right away and pull them instead of having to download the whole Merkle Patricia tree for state. And that helped improve the sync times significantly in all clients that implement it. Currently, it's implemented in Go Ethereum, Nethermind, and Bizo. And the reason, currently, unfortunately, only Go Ethereum is the one who is doing snap serving. Reason is, as mentioned, because accessing a certain, a range of accounts is not as easy as it sounds, because to access each account, you'll have to traverse the tree. But if we implement FlatDB layout, which basically allows us to store the accounts as with their full address and value in the database as is, then it will allow us to do snap serving, which is also what we are aiming to do after finishing FlatDB layout. So this is also, all of these things are work in progress. Hopefully we'll see them very soon. All right, so future plans. So what we're doing right now is also we're working on something called EVM object format, which basically allows us to have structured smart contracts in a way that if you define certain functions in Solidity, each function will have a certain section in the bytecode. And there will be also some data sections and some other types of sections that will define how the smart contract is structured. So that will be very helpful to the developers of the programming languages like Solidity and Viper, and also will be helpful for upgradability of these smart contracts in the future if we need to upgrade them on-chain. The other thing that we're actively working on right now with all other Ethereum core developers is that Vertical trees. And in Vertical trees, basically, is that instead of having the Merkle-Patricia tree, usually you needed to prove that a certain transaction, for example, was included in a certain block. You needed to include the node of the hash of that transaction and also the hashes of all the adjacent or like accompanying nodes. And that would make the proof very big. If you want to prove a certain transaction was included in the block, that would make the proof very big. With Vertical trees, that is different because for each node in the tree, there is a certain commitment that is associated with it. And with some ZK magic, you can actually prove that a certain transaction was included in this block without having to send a huge proof. So it moves to significantly smaller sizes. And this will obviously help with light clients, for example. So this helps with running a small light client Ethereum node on your phone, so you don't have to depend on centralized entities like Infura or Alchemy to provide you with an RPC for your wallet. You can just run a small light software on your phone to access the chain information without worry. The other thing that might be included in our future plans is bounded historical data, where basically, and this is actually partially implemented in Nethermind in a way, where basically you don't need to implement the whole, you don't need as an execution client to save the chain, the blocks of the chain from the start, from Genesis all the way up to the head of the chain. Instead, you have a certain periods of time that you have to store, and the rest you can pull them from certain archive nodes. As in Nethermind specifically, what we're working on or planning to do in the future is that we're starting to work on something called libp2p implementation in C#, which basically a library that allows us to communicate, peer-to-peer. There's already implementations in other languages for it, but we didn't have an implementation for it in C#. And that is why, and we're working with our other partners to implement that. And if we succeed in implementing that, then that will lead us also to hopefully upgrading the ERC 4337 implementation of the plugin, because it started to depend on libp2p, and also possibly implementing even an embedded consensus layer client into Ethereum, into Nethermind itself. So if you want to run Nethermind, you don't have to run a CL client besides it. You can just run Nethermind with a small CL client, and that will be enough for you to serve RPC endpoints or APIs, or for your even to connect your MetaMask or whatever wallet that you want to it. So these are the future plans, and like basically all of this work that has been doing this on the protocol level, this will allow builders to build better applications, better implementations, and reduce transaction fees for the user. All of this will help in increasing the mainstream adoption of the protocol in general. This is obviously, all this effort that we have put in the recent period hasn't gone unnoticed, obviously. We went from around 2% market share around the same time this year, last year, to currently having 21% of all synced execution nodes on Ethereum. So it's an exponential growth in my opinion, and it has been really great to see that diversifying these execution clients on Ethereum has been going so well like this. So shout out to all the core team members that have been putting all this work. Of course, there are other aspects that mainstream adoption requires other than improving Ethereum on the protocol layer. And I see, like, these obviously are just personal opinions, does not reflect anything, like the company's vision. But I see that we still lack a good user experience wallet in the space. There is still missing components in that area, and it's very complex for a mainstream person who does not have the technical knowledge, who is used to using the banking system on his phone or whatever, to join the space. And I think that is one of the things that require us to take a look at and improve. The other thing is that we need more on-ramps and off-ramps into a crypto. Like right now, if you want to on-ramp and off-ramp to crypto, you need to have an exchange account, KYC or whatever, or you need to use your credit card to buy crypto, etc. It's not easy. It's not as easy as it sounds. Not everyone has credit cards. Not everyone is able to access that type of financial structure, right? So we possibly need to improve on that as well. Another thing is that, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, we need friendly regulations for mainstream adoption to start picking up. Because if we have regulators trying to crack down on crypto, then the mainstream person who is just living his life will not try to approach crypto because of his fear that it will go to zero because no one will start adopting it because of regulations. So, and this also plays a role in the next part, which is basically we need to find other real-world use cases to crypto, besides DeFi and running DAOs and NFTs. Because like what we need is we need real use cases that reflect in our physical world. For example, real-world assets embedded into crypto, etc. Stuff like that. Once we have that, I think the adoption of crypto will increase exponentially. And to have that, I believe that also, unfortunately, we require friendly regulations. But because without the friendly regulation, we can't also accomplish that part. So that's basically all that I have for you today. I'm available for questions, if any. Thank you so much.